Hello everybody and welcome to the SENA TV Web English Show, where we will visit different and wonderful places in the United States and learn more about the lives of the most famous Americans that have made an impact in our world. Here, you will get to know more about the U.S. culture, tourism, and history. We invite you to join us on this amazing journey through the United States of America. Ladies and gentlemen, get ready to be entertained.
Lunes de bilingüismo.
Its worldwide scope and popularity have made a strong impact on society. This genre you're going to see in our following segment changed the world of music the past century, and it continues influencing fashion, attitudes, languages, and rhythms in our daily life. It was originated in the mid-50s, and its king was Elvis Presley. Yes, you are about to see the history and culture behind the world of rock and roll.
Born in the southern United States, it was the musical movement that spawned legends such as Elvis Presley, the Rolling Stones, the Beach Boys, Bob Dylan, Led Zeppelin, Chuck Berry, and many others. It has impacted culture throughout the world, brought people of different races together, and continues to influence music even today. Rock and roll is undoubtedly one of the most important evolutions of music in history. The phrase rocking and rolling was originally used as early as the 17th century, when mariners used it to describe the motion of. By the early 20th century, the term was increasingly used among African Americans to refer to dancing and partying with an undertone of sexual meaning. In 1951, Cleveland, Ohio-based disc jockey Alan Freed began broadcasting rhythm, blues, and country music over the radio, targeted at a multiracial audience on New York's WINS network. Freed began using the phrase rock and roll to describe the music that he played through his increasingly popular radio shows. Many historians point to Rocket 88 by Jackie Brinston, recorded in 1951, as the first song of rock and roll. There are dozens more songs that contend for the title of the first rock and roll song. Rolling Stone magazine claims that the first rock and roll recording was That's All Right Mama by Elvis Presley in 1954. Rock and roll evolved primarily from a combination of African American musical traditions of rhythm and blues, jazz, gospel music, and boogie-woogie. It did not take long for rock and roll to become an international phenomenon. Given its cultural similarities to the U.S., England was quick to adopt rock and roll, leading eventually to such international superstar bands as the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, and the Who. Rock and roll was not just a musical influence, but also left its distinct mark on U.S. culture. The music broke social boundaries, allowing many people to express real emotions that they previously didn't discuss, such as sex. It also contributed to bringing African Americans and whites together in America, as white teenagers listened to black performers and white musicians even found themselves in front of black audiences. The music created a shared experience between whites and blacks. Beyond bringing races together, rock and roll was one of the very first music genres to define the teenager. Rock and roll helped drive the division between parental and teenage culture by influencing teenagers' fashion, language, and social viewpoints. Rock and roll has had a profound influence on music ever since. It went on to inspire several other genres that are now often collectively called rock music. Even most of today's modern music has many of its roots in the rock and roll movement started decades ago. So the next time you turn on your radio, put on some headphones, or jam out to music at your favorite bar, you will always feel the movement of that rocking and rolling.
The man you're about to see in our following story rose from humble circumstances to introduce the rock and roll revolution with his impressive and unforgettable voice and his charismatic performance on stage. His career as a singer and entertainer redefined popular music. Let's see the details and the things you don't know of the life of the best artist rock and roll has ever known, Elvis Presley.
He holds the record for the most top 40 hits at 107, the most top 10 hits at 38, the most consecutive number 1 hits at 10, and the most weeks at number 1 at 80. His nickname says it all, The King. Born January 8, 1935 in Tupelo, Mississippi in a two-room house, Elvis Aaron Presley would become not just an American cultural icon, a sex symbol, and one of the most popular American singers of all time, but he would become the king of rock and roll. He developed a tight bond to his parents, particularly to his mother Gladys. Gladys and Elvis lived with relatives and often relied on neighbors and government food assistance. In November 1948, the family moved to Memphis, Tennessee. As he started high school, he remained a shy and timid teenager, and his musical talent was not fully appreciated. He actually received a C in his music class in the 8th grade. Overcoming his shyness, he decided to perform at a local annual show in April of 1953, where his performance earned him praise and popularity from his classmates. Later in 1953, Elvis walked into the offices of Sun Records for the first time to pay for some recording time in the studio. The recording session was not going well, and just as Phillips was about to give up on Elvis picked up his guitar and just started singing a 1946 blues song called That's All Right. The song became an instant hit on the local radio station. After several years of touring, playing shows, and several record releases, Elvis was quickly becoming a star of the southeastern United States. On November 21, 1955, Presley was signed by RCA Victor Records after RCA paid Sun Records an unprecedented $40,000 for Elvis's contract. It was not long before RCA had Elvis appearing on national television and releasing a hit record that became the first rock and roll record to top the Billboard chart with singles such as Blue Suede Shoes. Despite having harshly criticized Elvis, Ed Sullivan eventually booked Elvis for several appearances on the highly popular Ed Sullivan Show. The first episode featuring Elvis attracted 83% of the entire nationwide television viewing audience. In 1956, Elvis was featured in his first movie titled Love Me Tender, to capitalize on the success of one of the songs Elvis had released with the same name. Presley started 1957 by releasing several chart-topping hits, including Too Much and All Shook Up. This was also the year that Elvis purchased his 18-room Memphis mansion for himself and his parents. The famous mansion known as Graceland continues to be a major tourist destination to this day. In that same year, Elvis went on to participate in several more films and released several more albums, including Jailhouse Rock and Elvis's Christmas album, which went on to become the best-selling Christmas album of all time. After receiving a draft notice in December of 1957, Elvis joined the U.S. Army in March of 1958. On military duty in Germany, Elvis met 14-year-old Priscilla Beaulieu, who Elvis would go on to marry 7 years later in a Vegas hotel suite. Elvis was honorably discharged from the Army in March of 1960 and immediately launched right back into the music scene with the release of Elvis Is Back. By 1961, Elvis had already sold 75 million records. In the same year of the birth of his only child, Lisa Marie, Elvis got back on track with the landmark Christmas special aired on NBC that went on to be known as the 68 Comeback Special. In 1970, Elvis met with then President Richard Nixon, where he discussed his disdain for the hippie drug culture and spoke out against drug abuse. The following year, the city of Memphis renamed the stretch of highway in front of Elvis's house Elvis Presley Boulevard, which was followed up by Elvis becoming the first rock and roll singer to win the Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award. Elvis performed a landmark performance, Aloha from Hawaii, that attracted 1.5 billion viewers worldwide. While Elvis's professional life was back on track, his personal life began to unravel. He divorced Priscilla in 1972. On several occasions, he overdosed from prescription medication. One of those occasions left him in a coma in his hotel suite. He became significantly overweight. 3 of Elvis's former bodyguards, fired the year before, known as the Memphis Mafia, released a tell-all book titled Elvis, What Happened, that detailed Elvis's drug misuse. Barely 2 weeks after its publishing, Elvis was found dead on the bathroom floor inside Graceland at the age of 42. 80,000 people attended the funeral. President Jimmy Carter issued a statement saying Elvis had permanently changed the face of American popular culture. The genre of rock and roll probably will never know someone like him. Elvis Presley will forever be the king of rock and roll.
We'll be right back after this short break with the story of Julián Corredor, a Colombian who traveled to the United States where he learned and improved his English. Stay tuned.
Do you know the meaning of the expression barking up the wrong tree?
Ya regresamos con TV Web Educativa. Seguimos con TV Web Educativa.
Barking up the wrong tree is when you try to accomplish something by a particular method, but your plan is not successful because you are approaching the situation in a wrong way. En español, la traducción literal es ladrarle al árbol equivocado. Sin embargo, esta expresión significa que se está enfrentando una situación o problema de manera errónea. For example, if you think I am lending you my car, you are barking up the wrong tree. Traducción literal. Si piensas que te voy a prestar mi carro, le estás ladrando al árbol equivocado. You were barking up the wrong tree if you think we're leaving the party at 5 a.m. Traducción literal. Estás ladrándole al árbol equivocado si piensas que nos vamos a ir de la fiesta a las 5 de la mañana.
Many people in the world travel to countries where English is the official language. If you decide to travel or live in an English-speaking country, these tips and personal life experiences might come in handy. Julián Corredor from Villavicencio, Colombia moved in 2008 to the United States to get a master's degree in television management at Boston University, where he improved his English. Thanks to his good level of English, Julián ended up fulfilling his dream of working in the exciting world of Hollywood. Let's hear his story.
Entonces vamos a repetir el texto donde dices youngest para que lo pronuncies un poquito mejor y listo, vamos en 5, 4, 3, 2. I never studied in a bilingual school. I studied at a regular school in Villavicencio, my hometown. So when I graduated from high school, I decided I wanted to learn English. So some friends of my parents, they live in the US, in Kansas City, and we talked to them so I could go there and learn English. So I moved when I was 16 years old.
But don't wait up, okay?
Have fun. If I could give some piece of advice in order to learn the language, I would say read a lot, watch lots of TV, and something I did was talk to people. Like maybe if you go to the supermarket, talk to the cashier. If you meet anyone, just talk. Just do not be afraid. I think that was the key to my success. I was never afraid to talk.
Valentine's Day.
Well, I think if a woman is with me, I don't need to give her anything. Come on, it's a privilege to be with a hot
I studied at a community college, and then I got to meet lots of people. It was great because I met people from countries maybe I never even heard of before. Due to my knowledge of English, I got to have a wonderful experience. I went to Boston University to get a master's degree in television management, and I got to meet wonderful people. And also because of that, they had this sort of internship program in Hollywood. So I got to go to LA and work in the television industry in Hollywood, which was a dream of mine. It was something I dreamed since I was a little kid. And I got to work at E! Entertainment, and I also got to work at CBS Television Distribution. And I got to meet people I never thought I was gonna meet in person. Like, I got to meet Oprah, I got to meet Joel McHale, and for me, one of the most amazing experiences was I got to meet Courtney Cox, and I'm like the biggest Friends fan. I know I've seen every episode and I just love the show, and I went to this panel when she was promoting her new show, Cougar Town, and I got to ask her a question. It was kind of scary because I was so nervous. I thought I was gonna forget my English. I wasn't gonna be able to, process what I wanted to ask, but it was a wonderful experience. I could have never have done this if I hadn't had a good level of English, because it was a major requirement that you spoke the language. In order to learn English properly, well, it took me a few years, but it takes a lot of effort on your part. Like, I would watch a lot of television in English. I would always carry like a dictionary with me, or if I heard a word that I didn't know of, I would write it down and I would look it up in the dictionary afterwards. Something that I would recommend if you really want to learn English is do not go to places where the majority of the population speaks Spanish. That happened to me in Miami. Actually, one of the things that helped me get into the TV industry, which is very hard to get into here in Colombia and everywhere in the world, is because of my knowledge of English. Because of that, right now I'm doing the thing that I love, and I'm having a great time. It was one of the major requirements for this job, to know the language, because I help with scripts, and the show I'm working on is completely based in English. We have to do interviews in English and put videos together in English. Everything is based in the language. I would like to encourage people to really learn the language, because for me, one of my biggest dreams came true because of my ability to speak English. I got to go to Hollywood and meet people I never thought I was going to meet in person, and work with them because I had this skill that not everyone has.
Thank you so much, Julian, for sharing your anecdotes with us. I'm sure your story will motivate a lot of people to learn English. Millions of people have been astonished by its majestic beauty and the power of its waters. If you go to this one-of-a-kind attraction, you will enjoy a spectacular scenery and the magnificent panoramic views. You will fall in love with the Niagara Falls.
It has served as inspiration to explorers, tourists, and artists. Boasting a vertical drop of 50 meters with the highest flow rate of any waterfall in the world, Niagara Falls is one of the most popular tourist destinations in the United States, receiving millions of tourists each year. Situated on the US and Canadian border, Niagara Falls is composed of two major sections: Horseshoe Falls on the Canadian side and American Falls on the American side. Niagara Falls formed at the end of the last ice age around 10,000 years ago as the result of receding glaciers, which also formed the North American Great Lakes. While not extremely tall compared to other world-renowned waterfalls, Niagara is characterized by an impressive flow rate of as much as 5.7 million liters of water per second during peak times. Its characteristic green color is caused by the dissolved salts in finely ground rock that are created by the erosive force of the Niagara River at a rate of 60 tons per minute. Niagara Falls gained its name from indigenous tribes who inhabited the area. Besides just tourism, Niagara Falls was quickly identified as a way to generate enormous amounts of electricity. In 1881, Niagara's first hydroelectric station was built, generating electricity to power the local mills and light up village streets. After further development in the 1960s, Niagara is the largest electricity producer in New York State with a 2.4 gigawatt capacity. As much as 75% of the water of Niagara River is diverted to generate electricity. However, after a treaty signed between the US and Canada, water usage to generate electricity is limited to maintain the natural beauty. Niagara Falls has a long tradition of attracting daredevils. It all began in 1829 when Sam Pat survived his leap from a high tower into the gorge. In 1901, a 63-year-old schoolteacher, Annie Taylor, went over the falls in a barrel, surviving with minor cuts. Since that historic barrel ride, 14 other attempts have been made to go over the falls in a barrel, with some attempts ending in death and significant injury. However, the survival rate for daredevil attempts going over the falls is approximately 75%. The stunts are now illegal and highly discouraged. So if you actually survive the stunt, your reward is a significant fine from either the American or Canadian police. However, it is not just daredevils that go over the falls. An estimated 5,000 bodies have been found at the base of the falls since 1850, a majority of which are suicides. One of the most popular ways of visiting the falls is the popular Maid of the Mist ride, which allows visitors to actually get close enough to the falls to be completely soaked by the mist created by the falls. On the Canadian side of the border, the Skylon Tower offers the highest view of the falls and even allows a visitor to see all the way to Toronto over 120 kilometers away. There are many outdoor activities such as birdwatching, biking, hiking, and fishing. You can even taste wines along the Niagara Wine Trail or visit several theme parks and water parks. All of this attracts more than 12 million visitors to Niagara each year, making it another must-see destination when visiting the United States.
We'll be right back after this short break with more fun facts and entertainment. This is SENA TV Web. Don't move.
Do you know the meaning of the expression, let the cat out of the bag?
Ya regresamos con TV Web Educativa. Seguimos con TV Web Educativa.
Let the cat out of the bag is an expression that means to reveal a secret. En español, la traducción literal es dejar salir al gato de la bolsa. Sin embargo, el verdadero significado de esta expresión es divulgar un secreto. For example, he let the cat out of the bag when he confessed to his mother that he took her cell phone. Traducción literal. Él dejó salir el gato de la bolsa cuando le confesó a su madre que había tomado su celular.
Hi everyone and welcome to our English tip for today. This lesson is part of the National Learning Service SENA bilingual programs and it is made for you. Today you'll learn how to answer the phone in English. Cuando es una llamada en un contexto informal, lo más utilizado es el simple y mundialmente conocido hello. Si una persona contesta el teléfono en una empresa o en un negocio, generalmente se utiliza el good morning o el good afternoon dependiendo qué hora es. También pueden contestar diciendo good morning, how can I help you? Que significa buenos días, ¿cómo le puedo ayudar? A company greeting could be like this. Good morning, Manhattan English College, how can I help you? The responses to a greeting can be number 1. Good morning, yes, can you put me through Mr. Rodriguez, extension number 325? Number 2. Sorry, could you please tell me if Mrs. Perez has arrived? Number 3. Yes, could you please tell me your company's fax number? To reply to a question or greeting, number 1. 1 minute, your call is being transferred. Or, I'm sorry, he's not here today. Can I take a message? Number 2.